personnel. In the ideal world, you'd like to see this thing about 50-50 down the line from 4 down to 3 down. In some of the places, we just had to do what we had to do. But we're going to stay consistent to this because of some of the guys, especially the older guys that we have on the edge. That's the part that I really, really like about this. And they've just come out of that a little bit. There's some things that we have in this package that they have done in the past, which makes a little bit of a transitional period a little bit easier for those guys. So we're keeping that in the back of our mind too. But we're going to be multiple.
You like the guys on the edge, you said, but this was a team that was really vulnerable on the edge. What do you see? This was a team that clearly has good personnel. What didn't happen last year for them to be able?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that stuff. But what I'm going to tell you is this: since I've been here for the last 5 weeks, what we're trying to do is take guys and really at the end of the day that can do A to plus work, and every day that they come into a meeting, every day that they go out and compete, not only do they compete in my opinion, versus the guys that are in the organization, but inside their own heads, they're competing to be great. So that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to get guys to give more every day. And it's a process, it really is, because I think the demands that we're gonna put on them are, but it's all achievable. Just the level of play and everything that we do. Coaching is included now. You come into this building, you better do A+ work every day. And if you're not doing that, then you're cheating the organization. And we just take that approach, and whether it's academics, whether it is double A in the weight room, you name it, is to compete against your best self and to take this thing to be an elite where it belongs. But it's not roll out USC's helmet and say, go get it. It's what you put on film. That's your resume, is what you put on film. So they either look at it and say, hey, you know what, we're playing SC, and I think they're going to be pretty good, and they put that tape on, and then they make another judgment off of it. But I just think the stuff that we're doing, the training that we're doing right now, and it's not the exterior stuff, like the athlete running around, he's 6'5", he can do this. I'm talking about the insides. I'm talking about, wiring the brain, the heart, you name it, going down that line to say you can get more. That's the expectation. And that's everybody in the building. It's not us and the kids and all that. That's the expectation that I come in and we have the best unit meeting in the country. We have the most organized walkthrough in the country. This guy's on point. He doesn't, he does the things that he's preaching to us 24/7. And once we get that established, that takes a little bit of time. It does. And the really cool part about football is that really strains that. So you really find out. Like, that's why I'm excited. I'm sure that we'll be a little bit, it'll be a little bit different playing football on Tuesday and Thursday, but the Saturday practice, when we're knocking the living heck out of each other, that's when we're going to find out what we're all about. I mean, to me, it's easy to go in here and everything's, peaceful and non-chaotic. We can create chaos, and see if these guys can respond to it. And if it's not great, at the end of the day, you're getting better, and you're going to that dark place where all the championships are at and all the hard wins are going to be at, and you got to live in there. And you're going to get knocked around, and you get back up, throw yourself back in there, throw punches, and be active in there. But that's training, and that's what we're going to have to do, and that's going to take some time. And I see that going through. Let's make strides at it during spring, which you talked about, the physicality part of it. Let's get bigger, faster, and stronger during the summertime, and then let's see what type of ball club we have. And normally, about the third week of fall camp of what you're going to be, and then it gets incrementally better or incrementally worse, one of the two. So this is all the things that we're talking to our guys about, that it's not, and to be an elite ball club, you just don't come in and punch out and roll your helmet out there and say, be scared of us. You train in that manner. So that's what we're working on.
You guys turn things around recruiting-wise at Texas.
Yeah.
What approach do you bring here to help do the same thing here?
Well, get some elite recruiters. I think we've addressed that part of it, but it's just be us. I think there's a certain energy that you have to bring to today's kid, and and I think there's an expertise at relationships that you dig into a kid's life, whether it's a parent, whoever the champion is in his life, and get to know every part of it. But knowing that kid, and it's really a lot of the times it's not even about football. You're going to talk to, because a lot of these kids are 3 and done, and they want to have a plan for them. The top guys, like, hey, what are you going to do with me my freshman year, sophomore year, and then how do I go on to the next level? What's the reality of it? Hey, that's great. You can think that way. We want to win championships here, and we're great. But the majority of the time, it's that connection to the kid that's outside the football world. They know. These kids today are, And as coaches, you do it for a reason of caring for somebody, and making sure, because you're going to be responsible for them getting their degree. You're going to be responsible for the pitfalls that they have at this place, and there's that comfort level. And I think when you look at our building right now and who we've hired, they're not only great teachers and and they can recruit, but they're people. They're great human beings. And I think kids pick up on that. And this place sells itself, to be honest with you. But they want to make sure that if I'm going to spend a lot of time with this guy, that there's something more than football. And you either have that in your DNA as a coach and as a recruiter, or you don't. One of the two. So, and we most definitely address that, especially on our side of the football.
Todd, you've done really well. It seems like at most of your stops in the first year.
Yeah.
What's key about your system maybe that can be implemented that quickly, or players can pick up quickly? And on the flip side also, last year at Texas, what maybe changed compared to past year?
Well, to address the first part of it, I just think it is multiple and it can be installed rather quickly. The part of what you get into is when you have a little bit of inexperience, if you have some youth to it, it can be a little bit less, because it does have some multiple aspects to it. So you kind of do what you have to do with some younger guys to make sure that we can get lined up and do the things. But I think when you come in, I think it's hard to prepare for, especially because there's some uncertainty to it. And I've always taken the approach of year one is probably to not necessarily stay the course. There's always a little bit something, a little couple wrinkles here and there, a little bit different. And I just think it's a lot to prepare for, especially if you're a team that you play, especially early in the season. It's a lot of stuff going on. But it's the package itself. If you were to get on a computer here, it's install 1, install 2, install 3, install 4. It probably goes to about 5, and then it's over. So that's what we've been trying to do right now. And then you kind of pick and choose what you want to do for that game, or pick and choose what you can get done based on your personnel. And that's how it kind of rolls. So I think it's a lot of the places in the first year that I've showed up was change from a different coordinator. And I think a lot of the times you see some improvements just based on kind of mentality too, and the way the training is. I think you more than less than it's actually the scheme. I'll be real with you. I think we come in and it's kind of like, this is the way we're going to be fundamental. We're going to be technical. And we're going to run as hard as we can at somebody and try to blast them. And that's just try to keep it that simple to kids. And then as we go into it, it's multiple enough to be able to confuse some guys, or at the end of the day, make somebody on the offensive side of the football really have to work hard. And during the springtime, it's, going against our offense is completely different than you have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. You have 4 days to try to prepare for all this stuff. It can be hard to do on the other side of the ball.
Todd, when you have an experience like last year at Texas, what's the first thing you examine about yourself as a coach?
Did you stay the course? And I think that's always, did you recognize some of the stuff that was going to be an issue? And I look back at it and I always say to myself did you, everything that was going through that at Texas was things that we knew were happening even before they were happening. So it was all addressed. And sometimes you get into situations where stuff just happens, where you lose some marquee guys, and you have to try to mix and match as much as you can. But it's like I said beforehand, if you sit there and you kind of and you've made critical mistakes, I think that's always something, boy, they're hard to bounce back from. But at no point did I sit there. We've last year's group at Texas in terms of the staff was as sharp as there could be. So, I mean, all that stuff has always been talked through.
Can you speak to what you were trying to, looking forward to filling out your staff? What were the key things you wanted to lead spot there?
Well, I think it was good because, you know, Coach Helton had a lot to do with this also. So it was fun to sit down with him and say, you know, Craig comes, this will be the 6th year in this package, and Craig is, you know, I think probably when he got announced here, not like a household name, but he's as good as there is in the country, I can tell you that. And then all of a sudden, you know, Dante shows up on the radar, and to me, it's like getting the first pick of the draft. Honestly, it really was the way that it's set up, just from him having the ability to recruit here and do that. And then what Vic came into play was it really wanted some presence up there. You know, we catch him really early on in his career where I mean, honestly, I think he's going to be a superstar, I really do. And but he can recruit too. He can relate and recruit. So you're catching a guy early on in his career whose best years are probably right now to go along with recruiting. And we all kind of get along too. I mean, that's probably the biggest part of it. There had to be, we're all kind of aggressive type A personalities. And I got no problem with that. I want as many people in there that are competitive, but they're all very genuine, like big-hearted guys. And that's unique when you get a room full of those people that are really good at their job, but are humble enough to be able to work with each other, but also really understand the importance of recruiting. I mean, that to me is like, if just like I've said beforehand, you take this area right now and draw a ring around an hour radius, maybe 2-hour radius, and you keep the best players and you get them to come here, you're going to be in great shape. So it's that was really important to us that we put that together. Top of their field, but more importantly, recruiters, and then like alpha dogs too.
Any big surprises since you've been here? Things that maybe you go, oh, I didn't see that, or that's different than I maybe expected.
No, not at all. I think there's a lot of similarities to the place that I just got back from, so that from an academic standpoint. So there's always, when you get into these places that are known for their academics, and then football, the demands of football, I think that actually has helped us, you know, coming over and understanding what a normal day is for a kid. Outside of that, nothing. I mean, it's, you know, it's, everybody has their things that they have, and to me, it's just about relationships and development. And development can be done in a room like this as easy as it could be done in a ball field over there or in the Coliseum. It's just wrapping your arms around a kid, making sure that he knows how much you care about him, not only from a football standpoint, from an everyday standpoint, and then the demands of being great. I think that's such a big thing, you know, that I've seen since I've been here, is there's always a little bit more that we can do. Everybody can do it, and you know, but these kids have been unbelievable to me. I mean, I can remember walking on that practice field over there, and I mean, I can be a knucklehead at times and just throw myself into it, but I'm going to break this down. You know, I'm going to run right in there, and probably most of them knew myself from recruiting, handful of them. And then some were like, who's this guy? You know, so I was like, all right, let's go in there. But they were, you know, I think when you say some of the places I've been, some of the success that I've had, I think there's a certain amount of street cred that you get. So, and I think the kids have responded to that, but I also think that there's a plan in place, and these kids are very smart. They want to know, like, what are we doing? When are we doing it? How does it get done? Show me the video, show me this, and we've been on point with that. I'm excited about Tuesday, I really am. You know, we're going to make our mistakes with it, but if we can train to run as hard as we can to the ball, and then eventually when the pads get on, be as physical, we can fix everything else. Taking a bad step is going to happen, you know, but straining for your teammate and hitting somebody, that's the stuff that goes outside of human nature. Or human nature might say, it's, you know, the ball's all the way over there and I can get my air, or you know, do I really have to cover up my teammate? He's one-on-one in space, ready to make a tackle. Do I have to really run that hard to try to help him out? Yeah, you do. That's part of being a brotherhood, and that's part of being elite. So, you know, those are the things that we're going to be working on.
Right or wrong,
Time
there was
for one
a
more.
perception that maybe USC was cheap or not maybe willing to spend money on assistant coaches and so on. Was there any conversation you had with the athletic department that gave you confidence?
Oh, in terms of confidence off that? No. To me, when Coach Helton and myself talked about the hiring process, at no point, the administration has been unbelievable. We pinpointed a lot of these guys, Coach Helton and myself, to say, like, we need these guys to win a national championship, and there was zero hesitation. They've been unbelievable.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
Coach.
Appreciate it.
Coach.
Yes.
I know there's a seat here, there's a seat over here, there's donuts in the back, there's a chair here, so if you guys want to come up, I don't know who's this is. Anybody who came in late, we're doing this live. Jordan? This is live on Twitter. They'll be able to watch it if they missed the early part of it, right? Okay, Coach?
What's up, brother? How we doing?
Okay, next up we've got Coach Naivar. I'm going to give you a little, make a couple opening comments about life at USC, being here, how you got here, excited to be here, spring ball, and we'll take a few questions from these guys.
Outstanding. I guess I'm following the big guy. He probably talked about street fights and stuff like that already, so that's been pretty cool. So that's a tough guy to follow. Excited to be here. Very fired up about the opportunity that was provided through Coach Helton and what we can do here and everything going forward. So, guys, fire away. Just start firing questions at me. Let's go.
Craig, you mentioned Todd and just his focus on toughness. That's obviously been something that people have talked about increasing here. How much has that been a focus, especially for this new defensive staff?
We ain't putting pads on yet, so I mean, toughness is to a certain point. Attention to detail, accountability in little things, making sure we're taking care of our business classroom-wise, being on time, getting after the weight room and doing those type of things. Double A's done a hell of a job down there with those guys and the entire staff. Coach Helton does a great job getting everybody in line and going the same direction. So you can start to build those thought processes of toughness and accountability that way. But until we put pads on the 14th and subsequently from there, then we'll talk about real toughness from that point going forward.
Seems like that is a focus of Todd's, though, especially that's kind of.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, run and hit. I mean, if your simple mantra of what we do is run and hit. I think I caught the tail end of what he was talking about as far as we're going to have mistakes as far as assignment, responsibility, things like that. Stick your foot in the ground and go run through somebody's face. That's what this game's all about. That's being the most physical team on the field, enforcing your will upon an opponent is how you win football games. You stop the run the football, and hit people. That wins football games.
What is like your working relationship with Todd? Why is it that you guys have decided to work together so many times?
We were very fortunate when came together at the University of Houston. We did not know each other at all. We've got very similar philosophies of attacking style of defense, multiple styles of defense. We put a high premium, like we talked about, on being physical and those type of things. Some would say we're kind of off a little bit, which may make us bond a little bit tighter. But he's like a brother to me, and value his friendship. And more importantly, he's a damn good ball coach, and excited to be with him again.
But you guys, I brought this up with Coach Orlando. You guys turned recruiting around at the University of Texas when you guys got there. What is the approach that you guys are bringing here to get that done at USC?
I don't per se. The biggest part of recruiting is relationships, and recruiting's like shaving. If you don't do it daily, you look like crap. It's a ongoing daily deal. You can't just rely on the brand to go out and recruit. You've got to build relationships, and it takes a village. It's through families, coaches, associations, who's the champion for that young man in their home, outside the home, all that stuff, establishing that and recruiting as a staff. It's not just one guy recruiting a certain player. It's 4 to 5 to 6 guys being in constant communication with that young man and his family to where he feels like USC is recruiting me, not just a particular guy. So at previous places we've been, and even before Texas, we attacked it that way and had success with it.
Do you have the kind of guys that you can play the way you guys want to play now that you've got a sense of who your roster is and what they look like and all that?
We'll find out after you put some pads on. I'll have a better answer for that in June, July, and more importantly, August and September. But excited about the young men that are here. One thing that kind of drew my eye is I was game planning for Utah, getting ready to play the Alamo Bowl. There was crossover reference of watching these guys play against Utah on that side of the ball, and I saw guys that could run and that flew around the ball, and a lot of really good football players out there. So excited to see what we can do once we get on the field.
How would you describe the role of the safety in this defensive scheme, especially how
It's really fun. It's really fun. I mean, they're sort of the quarterbacks of the defense. We make all the checks. We make alignments. We check coverages. We check blitzes. Coach Orlando uses those guys in a bunch of different ways. So we're not so much as just hey, we're just a quarters team. Hey, we're just a one high team. We're going to spin you, rotate you, be extremely multiple with the safeties. It's an NFL-based scheme in that regard. It looks extremely complicated for opponent offenses. It's really not. Once we learn and teach these simple aspects of what we do, but it's a real fun system to play in because one play you could be in the post, the next play you could be blitzing the A gap. So it's a fun system to play in.
How was your relationship with Dante, and how are you guys going to kind of split the duties there?
Been awesome. I mean, I've clicked with that guy from the moment he walked in the door. I've known him through recruiting circles and stuff like that, and those type of deals. So he'll work with the corners, I'll work with the safeties, and we'll work together with everything as we with Vic and Coach O and doing what we do. Coach Orlando does a hell of a job of a staff input, staff game planning, staff putting stuff together, and then he does a remarkable job on game day of calling it. He's one of the best play callers in football, period, not just college football. So he does a hell of a job with that.
How about like nickel backs or dime backs if you use those? How do you kind of split those up with Dante?
Yeah, well, based on what young man is playing that position, as what room they come out of, we'll work from there.
Talking about recruiting, is there any chance you might be able to recruit a guy from Texas who happens to be here now?
Well, obviously, we're gonna go find the best we can. I mean, there's tons of great football players out here, and
Talking about one who's already here.
one who's already here. Dorian, North Shore,
Brew.
Mustang.
Yeah, Brew.
Brew would be a hell of a defensive player, but I don't think we're gonna get to. I don't think they'll let us have him.
You don't think so?
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Okay.
He'd be a hell of a defensive football player, though.
What did you see from him last spring at Texas?
Big, physical, and jumped in the fight. We had a bunch of DBs that were part of a historic signing class that were now coming in their second year. Here comes 5-star Brew jumping in, so they all want to take a shot at him and get after him. He didn't back down. That was impressive for a young guy that's coming in as a true freshman during spring ball. So that was what most impressed me, is those guys were taking shots at him every day, just kind of tested his water, for lack of a better term, and he got after it and competed. So fired up about that.
You've served as special teams coordinator your past several positions. Like, how does just focusing on safeties this time around kind of free you up to, I guess, dive deeper into the weeds there?
Well, it's obviously a little bit easier because you're not doing two different tasks. You're not serving two masters, as it speaks, and can spend more time doing that. And you know, you're going to get the work done no matter what's asked of you. So what's different? You know, not much other than just the time that you can spend a little bit more on opponents and things like that, and recruiting. Most importantly, is where you can spend more time. So that'd be the biggest difference.
Obviously, you were familiar with Coach Orlando, but in terms of Coach Helton, did you know him at all, or what was your impression, I guess, upon?
No, he has been amazing through the job process and Coach Helton reaching out, doing research, and I knew of him through the coaching fraternity before that. But when you start calling around and asking about him, every single response I got from everybody I talked to was what an unbelievable person he is, how great he is with his players, and everything's been 100% true. When we came up to visit, and you could feel in 5 minutes, this is a real guy. This guy cares about his players. This guy has a plan. This guy has a system. This guy's a damn good ball coach. And that's not like that everywhere in this profession. So, I mean, he not only is he a good dude as far as a ball coach, he may be one of the best people I've ever met in my life. And I'm not just saying that because he's my boss. As you guys get to know me, I pretty much tell you what I think. And he's a real dude.
How would you describe your ideal safety for this system?
Depends kind of what role we ask him to play. We are adaptable, and for what a young man's skill set is, to where we can put him to do what he does best. I mean, if I had to clone a guy, we'd throw 5 Marvell Tells out there. I mean, it's you know, this system works well because we can play upon young men's strengths and hide their deficiencies as we develop those to not make them deficient anymore. We like speed, we like length, and we like guys that like to hit people. So if you had to say what's big, fast, and guys that strike.
We always,
Ideally, what's the identity of this defense?
Attacking and multiple.
so you, Todd Orlando, Mike Jinks, Graham Harrell, John David Baker, Texas guys. How hard are you guys? You know, they say put a wall around Southern California, but there's not always the guys in Southern California that will fill your needs. How hard are you guys going to hit Texas, recruiting wise?
We're hitting California first. Obviously, that's our backyard. That's our bread and butter. And then we'll go wherever we need to go outside to supplement what we need. You know, we've got a really good group of guys that have really deep ties out here. And we hired some of those guys as well. But at the end of the day, recruiting is relationships and people of where you're at. I mean, when I was at the previous school I was at, I signed a safety from Mayfair High School out here. And I didn't know a soul out here. But it was just relationships and getting to know that young man and his family and those type of deals. So, you know, as far as where we're going to hit where we're going to find the best players. But obviously our number one focus as we go forward is starting here.
From your perspective with Texas's defense last year, where do you think the breakdowns were generally, or where did things maybe get derailed?
I'm not there anymore. I'm a USC Trojan, so that's in the past.
How's the practice planning going to go? I mean, for those of us who watched some practice, there wasn't a lot of, you know, running up and striking people, not a lot of, you know, physicality in practice. How's that going to change, do you think, with this group on defense?
The NCAA gives you a certain amount of periods and times and days where you can do that, and we'll maximize that time. We're not just going to be blood on the moon every day. We're going to be smart. But you get good at tackling by tackling. You get good at playing football by playing football. The Underwear Olympics do not win football games. 7-on-7 does not win football games. Running and hitting wins football games.
Having faced Coach Schneider on the other side of special teams, what should we expect from him? You know, how difficult was it to prepare when you guys were playing them?
He is the most detailed and prepared coach in collegiate football and special teams. You're not going to find a weakness in scheme or technique play against that guy. Your guys are going to have to physically whip and win a one-on-one to beat him. He is extremely detailed. He's extremely experienced. He's got a ton of experience, and does a great job of getting guys to play extremely hard and buy into their roles. So when playing against those guys, we have a lot of conversations down back and forth of you know, he'll ask, well, where did you see our weakness? And I said we didn't. You know, he saw strengths and a lot of things he did, but he's damn good at what he does. I'm fired up. We've got him here. Got a Marlins cap on, dude?
Yep.
What's the deal?
I have about 200 hats, so.
Okay, I mean,
Different one every time.
okay. Who's your favorite team?
I'm from outside Atlanta, so a lot of Atlanta hats as well.
Okay, just checking. Big baseball guy, just asking.
Any other questions for Coach?
I think we're good.
Thank you for for coming in.
Outstanding.
Thanks, Greg.
Take care of the donuts back there. There's still some donuts back there.
Take them. Go get
Yeah, it's all you.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Appreciate it.
Good job.
Thank you.
Fight on.
Good job.
Come on, guys. Let's go. Fight on.
Greg, you want a chair?
Run across that.
Okay.
Watch out, dude. Sorry. Sorry.
Okay, we have Dante coming in next. A few minutes. Chair maybe over there. Great, you missed the first part. It's on Twitter. Dante?
There's one here, like on the. You can run it under my bag if you want.
Kind of short. I'm trying to conserve.
Nothing at all. Running under my bag,
See if
like.
I can try. That's not looking, is it?
No, it's fine. Yeah. Streaming it, so he needed to plug in. I was like, yeah. So it's good. It'll work.
Just a reminder, you got to do that credential request again for practices, and that'll carry you through the fall, right? Yeah.
This spring will carry through.
Yeah. So try to do it by Friday. And we'll get
Got it.
through. Great. UCLA basketball Saturday. You have one or two people coming.
Just one, I'll look at the schedule.
That and Tom both.
Oh, Tom, okay, yeah, Tom will be coming. Let me check the schedule, I don't know, no, just one second. I got it right here.
There's some good tights.
Really?
Take care of
Sure. Yeah, she's got Tom down really close. They do a lot, so, if you gotta do it, that's fine. Cool.
Well, that's good then. Okay, next up, our cornerbacks coach, Dante Williams. Coach, just maybe a couple introductory comments about being here and spring ball, and then take some questions.
Okay. I'm just looking forward to being here. I mean, I appreciate you all coming down here today, and you know, I'm grateful for the opportunity that Coach Helton and the University of USC gave me, and we'll make sure I take full advantage of it.
Dante, for you, what was the the deciding factor that led you to coming here as opposed to just staying in Oregon? I know your family was part of it, but what played into that decision?
My family was a big part of it, and just like I said, I mean, Oregon's a great place, right? But it's always different when you get an opportunity to go home. You know, this is home for me. I mean, I grew up here. I was born and raised here, so I've been here my entire life. And, you know, it's a lot of the people here that, you know, my family's getting older, grandparents, you know, the situation that's going on with my dad right now and everything else. So it definitely was a weighing deciding factor for me as far as, you know, what I was going to do. But, I mean, a lot of the kids on this team I already knew also, just like I do at Oregon. And, I mean, it's great men here just like it's great men there. So the big factor, I guess, was coming home.
What was that conversation like with Mario Cristobal when you told him you were leaving USC?
Cristobal, you know, actually it was a good conversation, you know, but at the same time he wanted to do everything possible to keep me there, and, you know, it, like I said, it was a hard decision for me. It wasn't something like I just came to USC, you know, it was Coach Helton, you know, he talked to me quite often, and T.O., Todd Orlando talked to me quite often, and even the AD, you know, Brandon, Bo, all of them, everybody talked to me. So it was a hard decision, but I feel I made the right one.
Your hiring created a lot of buzz in recruiting circles. How do you think you can impact USC's recruiting?
Greatly. But at the same time, they have a lot of great coaches here, and they've got a lot of great recruiters here. So that's not just, you know, for me just to impact, you know, just USC recruiting. We're going to impact it all together. We're going to do everything as a team, as a group effort. So it's not just me by myself. You know, it's us. It's we. So I think together we'll be able to accomplish great things together.
What is your recruiting focus? I know after you got hired, a lot of offers went out, a lot of five-star guys. Kind of what's the scope of what you're looking for and how you're going to approach it?
The best players that fit us. So whatever that may be. I mean, at the same time, like you could say a 5-star, 4-star, but if a 1-star or a guy who doesn't even have a star yet fits us, what we're looking for at that particular position, then we're going to offer that kid too. It doesn't matter if we're the first, it doesn't matter if we're the last, we're just going to out-recruit everyone else.
What happened at USC last year? You were going head-to-head for a lot of kids and coming into Southern California. What happened here?
To be honest, I don't know because I wasn't here, so I can't really speak on the past. All I can speak on is what we're going to do in the future. And like I say, I didn't really come here to be liked, right? I came here to make sure that we're respected and we're feared.
How much of your knowledge of Oregon, the way they recruit, and the presentations you make to recruits on behalf of Oregon, is that an advantage for you to know that, being at SC now, and because you obviously grew up in Southern California, right. So there's a little bit of advantage there?
No, I mean, like I said, Oregon's a great place, you know, and I have, you know, nothing negative to say about Oregon. Right now, I'm just focused on what we're going to do here at USC. It's not what we're going to do here combats what they're do, or we're going to copy what they're do. I mean, we're going to be the trendsetters. You know, we're USC. Like I say, the whole thing for us is making sure we take back the West. When you take back something that you rightfully own, you don't copy others. Like, you're the trendsetter. So we're going to be first.
When you were growing up and playing, I think it was at Culver City High School.
Yep.
Did you have a favorite school yourself that you wish you could have played at, or were you?
I mean, SC recruited me, but everybody that grows up in this area, you're growing up in Southern California, you want to be a Trojan. And at the same time, with some of these kids, they may have moved here when they was in elementary school, but at the same time, like, this is where you grow up, this is what you watch, this is what's on TV. And if you grew up here as a little kid, your grandparents, your parents, everyone wants you to see you be a Trojan. If you played football in high school here, you played football in Pop Warner, this is where you want to be. So we're going to make sure we do everything to make sure that comes possible.
There's been some back and forth between you guys and Arizona State's coaches on Twitter.
Yeah.
What have you thought about their kind of claims, their proclamations and stuff like that?
I love those guys, you know. So those are, I mean, not to say like this, those are the guys that I see myself in them. You know, that's just 10 years ago. So at the same time, you know, old dog still has a few tricks up his sleeve.
You've been successful recruiting everywhere you've been. What are you telling kids why USC is a program that they should highly consider?
For one, the alum here is amazing. the education here is amazing, and the football here has always been amazing. So we're gonna make sure that they see all three of those things. And USC is a school that provides everything. Nowadays, when you go to college, for me, it's education first, academics, right? So academics is first. USC provides that. It's athletically, USC provides that. Big stage, biggest arena in the Pac-12. You're gonna play against the best, right? Even on our team, best type of guys. So iron sharpens iron. At the same time, USC also provides something socially. So you get to grow in all three aspects of your life, and I don't think there's no other school that can compete in that aspect.
What was it about Clay that stood out to you in terms of someone to work for, or the direction this program was going in?
Just all head coaches. I would say, the biggest thing for me is just being open and honest. And one thing with Clay is you can tell how open and honest he is. And I knew quite a few guys on the staff here, and the guys that I know on staff here, to be honest, they were so happy being here, where it was almost like it made me really curious, and they loved working for Clay, and I could see why, right? He allows you to do your job. He's not a micromanager. He allows you to do your job. At the same time, if you're not doing your job, he's able to step in where needed, and I love that about him, because my biggest thing is I'm always gonna make sure I do my job.
As a coach, what makes you a great recruiter, or make any coach a great recruiter?
For one, is can you relate to how hard you're willing to work? So, like I said, a lot of guys, if they say they have to be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning, they start working at 7 o'clock. But if I woke up at 5:30 that morning, I need to start working at 5:30, not 7 o'clock, not just when I come in here. If I go to sleep at 2 a.m. in the morning at night, which majority of the time I do, I don't really sleep. So I go to sleep at 2 a.m. and it's a kid that I know wakes up on the East Coast at 5, then right before I go to sleep, I'm hitting him. So it's like, I think the biggest thing about being a recruiter, if you're up for 24 straight hours, you got to recruit for 24 straight hours, not for 23. That's how life is. If you want to be the best, you got to do everything to be the best.
How many of the players in the secondary that played SC that are returning did you actively recruit when you were in Oregon, and how much of an advantage is that for you to reestablish a relationship with them now that you're here?
I don't think it's hard to ever reestablish a relationship, because when you got big time guys, a lot of these players on this team are big time players. You have big time players, they all know each other. So whether it was I was at Nebraska or Arizona or Oregon or anywhere else, either I recruited these guys in the past, or they know someone else that I coached, or they maybe be somebody's nephew that I coached in the past, even when I was a little bit younger. So the majority of all these guys that's on this team, somehow, some way I cross paths with them. So it helps me.
When you're out recruiting, are you finding there's a perception among some of the star local players in this footprint, they're looking to leave and maybe go east? How do you change that?
Win football games.
Is that really what it comes down to?
Yeah, win, and just, as much as possible, make sure you're able to connect with them. If you all of a sudden think that just because we're USC or just because this logo, someone's going to come here, you're wrong. Like I say, we're going to out-recruit other people. And by doing that, it has to be a 24-hour type of job, 7 days a week, and you have to be willing to do that. And right now, we have a long season ahead of us, so we got to take one game at a time, but at the same time, while we're taking care of that business in that season, we still have to recruit every day.
The administration talked when they came in about, adding more resources, redoubling their commitments to recruiting. Is that something, obviously you've only been here a couple months, but is that something you've noticed, even that there are the necessary resources to recruit in the way that you guys want?
Yes, it is a necessary resources, but at the same time, recruiting is just like everything else in life. You have to, everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses. So you could do everything possible to think you caught up with everybody today, but tomorrow it was 5 new schools that did something new and added to their budget. So it's a revolving door, it never stops. So just because you're willing to do everything to keep up with somebody today, next week it completely changes.
You were in the middle of that USC-Oregon game last year, and I know the USC kids, 2/3 of the way through the first half, thought things were going their way, and then all of a sudden, it completely turned. How did you see that from the Oregon standpoint, how that game just went kaboom?
That's football. Football is a game of momentum. So that's not just that particular game, that's all games. It's momentum. Sometimes it takes a big hit, sometimes it takes a big interception, sometimes it takes a big touchdown. But football is a game of momentum, and when you get that momentum, you want to make sure you ride that wave.
What stands out to you about Todd's defense?
About Todd's attacking. We're definitely going to be aggressive. So that's one thing that definitely stands out to me.
What were the conversations like with your family when you told them you were coming back?
My family didn't know until it was announced. So, I mean, a lot of things like, like conversations with my mom and stuff like that, like she would talk to me about it, but I didn't want to tell her what was truly going on because I didn't want to stress her out, didn't want to bother her with her, and, my mom was always going to tell me to do everything that's best for me. So, I didn't want to just, it wasn't a conversation until it happened. And then everybody in my family, friends, cousins, everybody was shocked.
Going back to Todd's scheme, he's been brilliant against the run, giving a lot of passing yards. What does it ask of the cornerbacks in the system?
Everything. So we're multiple. So NFL type defense, we're going to be multiple, we're going to be attacking. And I mean, it's not really what his defense, as far as giving up, like whatever you say, passing yards, like that was the pass. So I don't know what happened in the past. I'm not really worried about that. I'm worried about what we're going to do here to get better every day.
You guys had, I guess, 20 interceptions last year. I think USC had 9. What has to happen to get USC to where you guys were to get those kind of takeaways?
The biggest thing is, what our offense is going to do, which I know they're going to do, is score points. Once you score points and you get teams behind, they take more chances with the ball. When they take chances, we got to make sure we capitalize on it, which we will do.
Where do you think you've grown as a defensive back coach along your different stops?
I think that every time you get a chance to kind of go to a new place, you're almost able to take a look back in the mirror and see what you did that was really good and see what you did that maybe you could adjust or change, or even something that maybe you did bad. So I think the biggest thing is every time I've, had the opportunity to maybe go somewhere else or that a new year starts, you're able to reflect on what you did good and what you did bad, and you're able to, correct those mistakes.
In that sense, how would you describe your coaching staff?
Very, very, very energetic, demanding, not attacking, but at the same time, all I want is the best for my guys in all aspects. So I'm going to be very, very fair, very open, very honest, but I'm going to be all over the place.
In talking to guys that have gone through the recruiting process, one thing they've always said about you is that you're one of the guys they trust. Is it just as simple as just being honest, or is there more involved into gaining trust of these kids?
It's, for one, I'm really open and really honest, and but the biggest thing is, like I say, all these kids, they all know each other, and all it takes is for them to hit up another kid, and the kid to be like, he's a liar, he told me this or he told me that, and I'm real genuine. So every kid that I talk to, every recruit or prospect I talk to, like, that's for that person, that's for that recruit, that's what me and him talk to. I don't hit up 5 other recruits and have the same exact conversation, or start the conversation, the text conversation with the same exact thing. Every person is personalized. They're all individual, visualize of what that conversation is.
What are you hoping to establish the week 1 with the DBs here, with the cornerbacks here?
Get better every day. As long as we get better every day, and probably work on something that maybe wasn't the greatest the day before, something we need to improve, but at the same time what we're already good at, and make sure we continue to improve that also.
One of the things that was said is that Coach Cristobal brought SEC recruiting to the West Coast. What does that mean? What were you guys doing differently?
I don't know what people say, when they say that, but he's a grinder. So he literally will sleep in the office if he has to do that, every freaking night to sign a kid. He's a grinder. So if they saying it because he outworks people, then yes, he did do that.
How difficult is it on defense? When we go through spring ball, SC's offense, for lack of a better word, is referred to as an air raid type of offense. How do you prepare in spring ball to get your defense ready to face teams like Stanford or Notre Dame, who are going to pound the ground when you're practicing against an air raid type of offense?
So I think that's a little bit misleading. Okay. And the reason why I think that's misleading because in the past I played arena football, right? So everybody always said arena football is all passing, and it's not that physical, and regular football is so much more physical. Let me tell you, the most physical football is arena football. By far, the most physical football. I mean, you got a guy running at you 15-yard head start, and somebody's telling you that you got to press this guy. And he literally could run you over. He's running in the walls and everything else. So just because they pass the ball a lot does not mean it's not physical. And that's the biggest thing. Football is it's a game of inches, but it's going to come down to the same thing. Hitting, blocking, tackling, that's what it comes down to. And no matter, they can pass the ball all over the place. They throw a screen, people still got to block. You still got to get off blocks. You still got to tackle, right? You still got to communicate. You still got to get to the ball. So all they're doing is helping us play in space. If they pass the ball a lot in spring football, it's helping us play in space. And especially in the Pac-12 is a game of space. Try to get your best athlete in space on someone else who they feel that they outmatch and make a play. And our whole thing is stopping them from making a play. So if our offense is the best, which I hope they are, which I think that they are, it only helps us because every day that's what we get to practice against.
What kind of traits are you looking for when you're looking at a quarterback? What are the biggest things that you want to see from them?
For one, do you love football, right? Football is a hard sport. For every day, I could recruit you right now, and you may be, 5'6".
5'4".
All right, see, 5'4", and I never guess a woman's weight, but you could be 5'4", and I could send you out there right now and tell you to go take on a guy that's blocking you that's 6'7", 330 pounds. And to do that, you can't be timid about that. So you have to be able to love this a little bit because it's going to be a little bit of pain in this. And football is a hard sport in my opinion because you have to be willing to give your all every day without no guarantee of success. None. You can come every day and come to meetings every day, you can practice every day, you can lift weights every day, and you may not play in the game. But I still want your all, and this team still wants your all because whenever your opportunity is called, you still have to, everybody's dependent on you. So just knowing how hard this sport is, I want to know first, do you love it? How competitive are you? It's a lot of things that I look for. And for one, me and you have to be able to get along off the field. It has to be a lot bigger than football. Football is what brings us together, but football is not what's going to keep us together.
So how do you tell that a player really loves the game? What are you looking for in that?
What do you do when nobody's watching? When it's Saturday and it's not football season and there's nothing going on, that you just sit at the house all day and play cartoons and watch and play video games? How much do you really love this? What are you willing to put into it? Because if you just do what everyone else does, then you're never going to get better because you're doing what everybody else do. You have to be able to do a little more.
Is there any way you've noticed so far in the time you've been here how maybe Coach Orlando is unique from other defensive coordinators you've worked with?
Everyone's different. So I can't really compare him to no one else that I worked with in the past. But, I like T.O. a lot. So, and I don't know if it's because personalities are, we're kind of similar, but I like him, so.
How are you guys similar personality?
I think for one, he's willing to do what it takes to succeed. When it comes to coaching, he's willing to, as far as staying there every day if he has to, right? He never, as far as, in my opinion, he never is negative. He's always positive, always upbeat, always energetic. I've never once seen him to where he looks tired, like he looks worn out. I've never seen him like that. No matter how early in the day, no matter if it's the middle of the day or no matter if it's late in the evening. Every time I've seen him, he's been energetic, been ultra positive, and he fits in well with the guys.
What does Todd bring to recruiting, and how important is to have an engaged and coordinator in that process?
It's very important because I think, when it comes to it, every player still wants to see where they fit in. And if they only hear it from you, it's almost like, yeah, I hear you, but it's only from you. When you hear, everybody's on the same page, which we are here, which is great to see. Whether it's me, whether it's, T.O., whether it's Coach Helton, doesn't matter. We're all on the same page, and I think that's really important because they're hearing it from multiple people instead of just one.
The defensive personalities from the staff are diametrically different from last year. When you sense a little bit of resistance from the players, how do you work through that?
I don't know. I've been here for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks.
In your careers?
Yeah. Here, I haven't seen no resistance at all. And from a player standpoint, I really haven't seen resistance when a player feels they're getting better. So when a player feels like you're getting better, you won't get resistance. Players usually have some kind of resistance when you belittle them, when they feel that they're not getting better. So I haven't been a part of that.
Let's do one last question.
Working with Craig Naivar, what's kind of been the relationship so far? How do you guys kind of see breaking up things?
everything's been great. Because usually I'm used to probably being the most energetic person, especially when it comes to secondary and all that. And I don't know if Craig's already come up here and talked or about to, but shoot, Craig's more energetic than me. So, I mean, he's every day. You almost feel like he's jacked up on Mountain Dews and everything else, and he hasn't even had one yet. So, I mean, the relationship's been great.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Dante.
Okay. Yeah. Just missed the beginning of Todd's.
Okay, next, our defensive line coach, Coach So'oto. Just a couple opening comments.
Yeah.
Being here, spring ball, that sort of thing,
Right.
and then we'll open it up to some questions.
So it's So'oto, not Soto, but
Try to say it fast.
Yeah. Excited to be here. USC has been a dream of mine, and my wife and I, and when this opportunity came, you know, it took a little bit, but it really was a no-brainer for us to come out here and become Trojans. You know, so we're excited. Spring ball's coming up. Defensive line are my guys, and I told my wife they're gonna hate me before they like me, and right now we're kind of going through that whole process, but we're excited. Yeah, questions?
Can you take us through the process of just that decision when Coach Helton or when the administration first reached out to you, and just what those conversations were like before you took the job?
Yeah, so came out here on our interview with my wife, and she had, I bring her because she can see things from different angles, and Clay Helton, you know, to his credit, was, you know, the guy that kind of tipped us over as far as a boss that, you know, you can get behind and fight for. Coach Orlando has been awesome. You know, he's cut from the same cloth, so to speak. I think the three other guys that you guys have seen earlier today, we all kind of covered the same cloth. You know, we believe in violence, and we believe in playing football a certain way. And then talking to my parents, and with them being an hour and a half away in Oceanside and in Carlsbad area, you know, they were bringing the babies home, basically. I have 5 kids, and so they were ready for their grandchildren to be on the West Coast. Yeah.
What was it about Clay and maybe his style that did tip the scales in that sense?
Just being real and honest. And then, you know, he's a faith-based coach, and our faith is big to us. And so, you know, what he was able to bring as far as conversations and feelings, you know, we were just fired up and ready to go. Yeah.
You've been with Bronco Mendenhall in different levels for quite a few years now.
Right.
What are you taking from his coaching style, philosophies, or him as a human being that you bring here as a coach?
Oh man, the list could go on, but most importantly, I would say there's a right way to do things. There's a standard of doing things, and every day it's got to be to that standard, you know, and you got to hold your players to that standard. And so the whole idea of, you know, having violent practices and physical practices, it's not mine. It's just the way that I've known football from getting into college is every day is going to push you to the limit. Every day is going to take you to that dark point that, you know, Orlando talks a lot about. And then we're going to see who can stay there. And really, that's where the championships are. The greatest players I've been around were the hardest workers. Told this story about Charles Woodson being the last guy in Green Bay and giving me a ride back as an undrafted rookie free agent, you know, at 11 o'clock at night, you know, during training camp. That's kind of mindset and what I bring as far as the standards of our room. You know, you got to love football. You got to love football, and at some point, football's going to love you back.
Did Junior say how much of an influence in terms of growing up? Did you?
Oh, absolutely. I think anybody that's grown up Polynesian, you know, that's one of the top. There's a Mount Rushmore of Polynesian football players. You know, a lot of the guys went here. And Junior, I wasn't allowed to watch TV on Sunday unless there was a family member on TV. So watched a lot of San Diego Charger games. You know, and that was always the excuse. You know, well, Junior's playing, and so And then, you know, post-football, seeing him mentor and bring others along. And same with Troy, you know, played with Troy for a little bit in Pittsburgh, and seeing what his aspect as far as, you know, exiting the game, what he's trying to do as far as for the Polynesian people, which is a huge impact on me and obviously this place, because this is basically the pinnacle, you know, the mecca of Polynesian sports is to play at USC. There's been a pretty significant infusion of energy from the defensive coaches that have been hired recently. What is your approach to recruiting? You know, I've talked to a lot of guys that you've recruited, and they think very, very highly of you. Right. Just being honest and upfront. You know, we kind of went through as coaches the same sort of process, you know, with getting hired, of deciding whether or not, you know, USC was the place to be. And my, you know, my whole thought process in recruiting is be honest and be upfront and develop relationships, but then get after them. You know, just tell them, look, you're going to be pushed harder than you've ever been pushed, and I'm going to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, you're going to know my kids' names. They're going to wear your jerseys. We're going to be family, and this thing will go on, you know, past playing. So my recruitment philosophy is really, really simple, man. Be honest up front, and then just tell them really what it is. I think a lot of times in this recruiting process, you can see and hear different things from different coaches, but then when you go out and watch them, or you talk to players that are there, it's something completely different. And that's not me. I wear my heart on my sleeve and just go after it.
You said that your players,
how
should I put this, will hate you at the beginning and love you later, okay? And then you said right now they're kind of on the negative side. Could you expound on that? What you mean by that? What are they seeing?
Yeah, it's
maybe they haven't seen before?
Totally. I think it's just being uncomfortable, you know, and every day for me is to make them be uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable in a bad way. It's uncomfortable, and this is what the greats do. This is, if you want to take your game to the next level, this is where you got to go every single day, and it's something that just doesn't relent. And there's some, you know, hatred, so to speak, or like, you know, pushback. But then once they buy in and they see what happens, you know, on Saturdays, you know, in April, and then on Saturdays in September is where it's like, oh, I get it. Oh, it makes sense, you know, and that's where the bonds are really built, is when you take them through that process over and over and over every day.
Can you give a specific example? Right now, are they putting in more time?
Specific example, one of the first guys I sat down with was Jay Tufele, and he had some issues academically, and we had worked through that and pushed him every day, text him. Like, I text the guys every day. Every morning I wake up, I text them and have this group thread. We have this group thread, and I send them messages of what, you know, the topic of the day or things we've got to get through throughout the day. But then he's hearing it every single time we talk. He's hearing it from every aspect. He's hearing about academics, and when he's going and sitting down to eat, when he's you know, up working out, and when he's, you know, running conditioning drills and all that, you know, he's hearing it. And to his credit, he's bought in quickly, and you know, he's just taken off. He's done a complete 180.
You're from Southern California, so you know what USC offers as a football program historically. What do you tell a kid, let's say, from Gaithersburg, Maryland?
From Gaithersburg,
USC
Maryland,
is a place.
Absolutely. I tell them, one, come and see it. Like, this is unbelievable. I mean, two, you won't need any coats anymore. You leave all your coats in Maryland. But then the type of people we have around here, and I think the product that we're going to put on the field, you know, in the fall is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be violent, physical, and then the opportunity, obviously, to come in and play with in my position, because a lot of our guys are going to the NFL or graduating. So this place is unique as far as being, you know, the second largest media place in the world, right? And a place that everybody comes to and flocks to because of different things, and just being around here and seeing it, first and foremost, is coming here and seeing this place. It's completely different than anything they'll experience.
From your first exposure, do you have the players to be really violent and physical and next year, right away?
Oh, absolutely.
The talent.
You look at at Virginia, you know, we were 2-10 4 years ago when we go to the Orange Bowl, and leading there, the strongest unit on the team was the defensive line, and it wasn't guys that were the big, you know, it wasn't the Caleb Tremblays, it wasn't, you know, J2 fellas, it wasn't those guys, it was just guys that bought in. So as far as size and who it is, right, it's more so a mindset, because everybody in this room could be violent and physical if they wanted to and run through a guy's face and go hit the quarterback. It's just guys, you know, having to do it over and over and over and over and over again is getting to that place. That's where why, you know, it's so important, these practices coming up.
What stands out to you about Todd's defense and what he's asking from your unit up front?
Right. It's very similar to the unit that I just left, or the type of defense that I just left. But more so, you know, the mindset of attacking and getting after it. I think kind of been the, you know, the general theme of these past, you know, 3 or 4 interviews is we're going to get after it, and the mindset of it, and he brings an energy, you know, and Craig brings an energy, and Dante brings an energy, and this defense is just going to be so much fun. Once these guys get playing where they don't have to think and they can just go around and smack dudes, like, that's when it's really, really fun.
You mentioned being multiple up front, you know,
right.
3 down, 4 down. How do you go about preparing both ways, and where does the personnel kind of fit for those looks?
Right, so it's allowing everybody to learn everything. You know, that's kind of been my mindset going into all my meetings these past 4 years, and this one is to make sure everybody knows what to do and how to do it, and then whoever can do it the best is going to play. Like, I'm very, very fair. I'm very transparent. We had guys last year that were seniors that were actually playing scout team at some point because it was just too soft in practice. So, you know, physicality, obviously, first and foremost, but then everybody's going to know exactly what to do on every play, and that's kind of how you train them. So it doesn't matter who's playing where. Okay, you play end, or you play nose this time, or so-and-so needs a breather, play the 5 technique. It doesn't matter the body type, really. It's everybody has to understand how the defense works, and then train that way, and then it's really plug and put guys, you know, where you want them.
When you first started talking to Clay about the job, how much was that toughness, physicality, something that he made clear he wanted to focus on?
Yeah, I think it's just through Orlando and through Clay, it's just been, you know, a theme. You know, I don't think there was one specific, you know, conversation. Yeah.
Have your guys that you talked to
Right.
talked about maybe they weren't as physical, they weren't, you know, working on stuff that you guys are talking about last year? Have you talked to the guys about?
Yeah, I haven't really talked about last year.
Okay.
You know, last year is last year. I wasn't here, but we've talked a lot about our expectations this year and going forward. Watched a lot of the defense, a lot of the guys, and just there's so much potential in my room to have an amazing year, and I've been preaching to them over and over. You know, the difference between reality and potential is a lot of hard work, trust, and violence on the football field. Like, that is the difference. And so taking them to that place again, day in and day out, I think will pay dividends in the fall.
Have you been able to identify guys that you see as being leaders this year?
Yeah. On the defensive line, I think Marlon, you know, he's got a quiet leadership about him. He just goes to town. Like, he just goes and works and works and works and works. And then, you know, Caleb has kind of stepped into the role a little bit. Jay's, you know, stepped up a little bit. But there's still this feeling out. Really, you don't know, obviously, as a defensive line coach, who guys are until it's time to put the pads on and hit. You know, then it exposes a lot, you know, once you play real football.
You played linebacker. How did you evolve, and what have you learned as a defensive line coach?
Right, so I actually played a lot of positions in college. I played tight end, fullback, D-line, linebacker, and then played linebacker in the NFL. But a lot of what I learned in college is kind of my philosophy now. Is I was an undersized defensive lineman, but played 2 years there as a 4-eye, you know, knocking these guards back. I was 250, and in my mind it was, every play I've got to give everything I've got because I'm smaller, right? So that same mindset, you know, has spilled over into my coaching career and how I coach these guys is their mindset is I've got to give everything I got, every play. But as far as linebacker goes, in our defense, we'll have guys dropping from all over the place. So obviously the coverages and whatnot are easier to teach just because I know that stuff for the front guys. And then knowing what it's like to come from, a 3 technique or a 5 technique and ask to drop and see routes. Like that's a whole different world that I'm accustomed to, but opening their eyes, I think goes back to the linebacker days.
You were in Green Bay the same time as Graham Harrell?
Yeah, I was.
Did you get any hits on?
What's that?
Did you get any hits on?
If I did, they were accidental. No, yeah, we're quarterbacks kind of have their own deal. They're almost like separate from the team because they're like, that's where all the money is. So everybody, stay away from the quarterback on and off the field. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Graham's known Graham for a while and followed his career in North Texas, and saw what he's been able to do and just not surprised because of the person he is and the family he has and the worker he is. So, yeah, back to those Green Bay days.
You're the 3rd defensive line coach in the last 3 years.
Right.
So how is it a challenge for you to bring what your philosophy is to undo, for lack of a better word, what they've learned from 2 previous guys? Why is the way you're going to do it a positive approach for them to buy into?
Right. When I took this job, I didn't look at who was behind me because it really doesn't matter. And that's kind of the mindset of the D-line is it doesn't matter. I don't care what you know. This is what's going to help you be successful because I've seen and I've done it in the NFL, right? And whether they're the techniques they've learned or not, they're going to learn how to do what we need them to do. I told them it's a lot like being a free agent, in the NFL, and for these guys that are juniors and seniors, they got 1 year to learn a new system and what a coach wants and to adapt, and so for me, I don't want to be like anybody else. I'm not like any other defensive line coach. I'm just myself, and I take from a lot of people as far as coaching techniques and what I like. But as far as what these defensive linemen are doing, they're going to be taught to a standard and asked to do exactly what they're supposed to do. And the guys that do it more often are the ones that are going to see the field. So I don't really dwell on a lot of the things that happened here before as far as defensive line coaches and defensive line play.
What potential do you see in Drake Jackson and how he fits into what you want to do?
Yeah, unbelievable potential. Again, there's a lot of potential, right? This guy could be, one of the best to ever leave here. But again, there's aspects of his game that we just got to continue to build on, continue to develop, and that goes with all our guys. We're just in the business of developing everybody in the room.
You say the word violent a lot, and you say
right.
With a smile. I like that. Can you define violence?
Define violence?
For your guys.
Oh, for my guys, I think you'll see it as far as and hear it and feel it. The oohs, the ahs, like those type of things. But then the violent mindset of anytime I put my hands on something, it goes backwards. Anytime, whatever it is, out on that practice field, anytime you put your hands on something, it goes backwards. And the technique and fundamentals really build confidence in being violent. There's guys that try to go out there and do things, but then they end up on their back. And so my job is to give them the tools to go out there and be violent and physical. But this is what the game is. The forward pass wasn't invented until years after football was. And so it's kind of the roots of this game is violent, physical front play with a ball and somebody go tackle them, So I feel like with all this air raid and playing in space and all this, the true roots of this game, the only thing that's left is defensive line, offensive line, violent football up front, whether the guy has the ball or not, if he fakes like he's got it, he's going to the ground, right? And if he's a sliver of a grass, right, inside the lines, he's going to get hit. And if he's up off the ground, he's going to get hit. And that's the type of football that I've been raised on, the type of football that I know this place has played, and the type of football that when you enter the Coliseum has to happen over and over and over again for it to go back to where it was.
Going back to the hiring process, where were you when you got the call? How did that just hit you in that moment?
As far as where was I when
USC reached out for the first time, the very first contact?
Yeah, it's a pretty funny story. I think, I think Orlando might have his side of it, but I was watching the Super Bowl and saw that there were firings here, and so looked it up and saw Orlando was the coach, the hired defensive coordinator, and our roots are kind of intermingled with him at Utah State and Bronco at BYU as far as schematically. So I knew it was a fit there, and honestly, I pushed the follow button on Twitter, and he followed back immediately and said, "Hey, let's talk after the game." And that's kind of what started the whole ball rolling as far as our communication and then the interview and offer and accepting and all that. So. Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out and follow somebody.
Were you, when you were playing high school down in San Diego?
Yeah.
I asked this question to one of the other assistants and you guys.
Right.
Were you an SC fan growing up? Or,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There wasn't another show in town, right? There wasn't another show in the country. There wasn't. Like I don't remember Alabama at all. I don't remember LSU. I don't remember Clemson. I don't remember any of those. All I remember is USC football, right? And ended up going to BYU, but my heart has always been here in Southern California. Like, growing up out in San Diego, everybody's favorite team was USC, and seeing the landscape of recruiting right now and seeing where players are going out of the state of California is a travesty, and that's something that is priority number one in recruiting, is to get the right guys here from this state to represent USC and to go out there and kick ass in the Coliseum.
Time for one more.
What's maybe the biggest challenges when you have a multiple defense of teaching both 3-down line and 4-down alignments?
A lot of it is the mindset of when you're in certain alignments of what you're doing. So 3-down is different than 4-down. A 3 technique's different than a 4-eye. But having them, the ability of them to understand this is why we're in this front and this is what we're doing. But that's always the challenge, is guys just want to get vertical, and 4-down. And 3-down is real, block recognition and understanding what the offense is trying to do, and there's only a certain amount of plays that they can attack you with. So I like my guys to understand this is 4-down world, this is 3-down world, this is how they can attack us in the run, this is how they can attack us in the run. And then as soon as they bump from a 3 technique to a 4-eye, they know exactly, okay, now I'm in this world, this is where I'm living. And so that's obviously, the hardest thing is having them understand the different schemes.
Great. Thank you,
Sounds
Coach.
good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Of course.
What's happening?
Well, how about this? A familiar face for everybody. Coach Harrell, how about a couple opening comments maybe on how year 2, getting into year 2's going, and spring ball coming up, and we'll take some questions.
We're excited about spring ball. Obviously, we did some good things at times last year, and we got to build on that. Usually, the biggest improvements are from what in this offense traditionally is from year 1 to year 2. So we've got to find a way to make that happen here. So we're excited about it, and spring ball will be a good start for that.
Graham, you generated some medical interest earlier this year. What did you learn from that experience, and what ultimately led you to coming back?
I think this is a special place. I've said that since I've been here, and we got a lot of great guys, and I think we have a chance to be really, really good. And again, we're happy here. My family enjoys it here. Got a lot of special players here, and a lot of guys that I have a great relationship with here. And to be honest with you, the reason I get a lot of the interest from other places is because of the players we have here and the success we had on the field here. And so I want to see it through with some of those guys and go have success with them is something that excites me and ultimately why I wanted to be here.
What was that process overall? Every time you made a decision to stay, someone else is coming in. It kind of starts anew each time. What was that like going through over and over again?
It can be stressful. You know, it's obviously a humbling experience, and you're excited about it, and you got a lot of great opportunities. But you know, especially for a family, it can be tough just because you think you figured out what you're going to do and where you're going to be, and then you're not sure anymore. But again, this is a great place, and obviously a really great university with a lot of great players here. My family is happy here, so that obviously helps the cause and plays into it. But again, we have a lot of great players. I think we have a chance to be a really good football team, and excited to be a part of it.
Had the idea of coaching at the NFL level, had that been on your radar at all, having only coached in college so far?
Not really. It's not. You know, I think a lot of people, their ultimate goal is to be in the NFL, and that's kind of what they view as what their end goal or what they're striving for, and that's never really been. To be honest with you, I've always thought it to be a high school football coach. That's all I've ever known, you know. And so, being in college is fun, and I enjoy it. And going to the NFL is not something I really considered too much until the opportunity arises, and then obviously you do start thinking about it. It's something you consider, and I do think it's a great opportunity, and maybe one day it'll be the right time or the right opportunity for me to go do it. This just it wasn't it, you know, and so it's like I said, exciting, and I do think that the NFL, if you look around and look at a lot of the offenses, they're kind of moving towards. A lot of them are doing things more similar to what college guys are doing or what we're doing here. So there may be more opportunities, and the time may be right at some point. And it is an exciting opportunity, but it's not something I've ever thought about or thought that I have to get to feel like I've made it in the coaching world. You know, like I said, I love high school football, and that's what I thought I'd always do. And I've really enjoyed college as well. It's been a fun few years here, and hopefully get to do this for a long time. But if the right opportunity and the right fit and that it was a perfect situation, at some point maybe I will go to the NFL, but right now, like I said, excited to be here and excited to work with the guys we got.
What are your aspirations for head coaching jobs in the future? Obviously that's going to come about.
Well, that's really been, once I got into college coaching, I think that my goal's always been to be a college head coach, you know, and so that's kind of more where I've seen my career going than the NFL until you get opportunities in the NFL, and then you have to consider those and look at those. And so, again, to leave here is going to have to be a really special opportunity because this is a great place, and it's a place we're happy. It's a place that we love being. It's a place where I think you win a national championship, and that's always been my goal in college coaching is to win a national championship. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I think this is a place that you can do that and contend for that year in and year out. Again, to leave here would have to be just a perfect fit and a great opportunity, but my goal is to at some point be a head coach, and that's what I want to do. And you know, maybe it'll be in the NFL at one point, but college head coaching has kind of always been. Once I got into my coaching career, and I was in college, kind of thought that's where I would like to end up at some point. We'll see where it goes from here. You know, I make plans and they don't ever work out, so we'll see what happens from here.
I think your deal is that for a pass-heavy offense and a coach to be running that, to have two starting quarterbacks back and basically three quarterbacks who've won football games for you. I mean, does that change kind of your approach when you've got?
Like I said from the beginning, I don't think you can. The one thing that you can't ever replace or you can't speed up is experience. You know what I mean? And so experience is to me the most important thing. I mean, the way you grow. You know, I mean, obviously in practice and stuff it helps, but real game experience is the best way to improve as a football player, really at any position, but especially at the quarterback position. You can't replace live game reps, and again, we got three that now have live game reps, so that helps the cause. The only problem is they're the only three on the roster, but we'll see how that goes. But we'll have to keep them healthy, and but having three guys that have game experience, have had success at this level, definitely helps the offense, and I think should I mean, helps those guys be successful, helps the offense be successful, and should set you up for success moving forward. And I think that's one of the main reasons why year 2 in the system a lot of times is your biggest growth, because your whole offense or your whole team now has a year of experience in the system with game reps, with live experience, and we got a lot of guys returning from last year's team that did some good things. Now have a year under their belt, they should be much more comfortable, and I think that the improvement should be drastic. But again, you don't show up and be successful or show up and win. You got to prepare the right way and do things right. They're having a great off season right now in the weight room, doing some really good things. We have to have a good spring ball, and every phase of the off season, if they do things right, I think that it'll give us an opportunity to be a really good football team.
What they did last year, do you see it as Keaton's job?
Yeah, it's always a competition, and I think that Coach Leach is kind of the guy that I learned that from. But whoever's playing best at that time has got to be the guy you put out there, because they give you the best chance to win. And so Keaton obviously did a lot of great things. He's a really, really good football player, and we saw that since last spring. Even coming in as a true freshman, he did a lot of great things. But it's always going to be a competition at that position, because there's only one of them that plays. And so the best guy come whatever, September or August or whenever we play that first game, will be the guy we tried out there. Again, he got a lot of experience last year, which will help him. JT played a lot the previous year, and obviously played a little bit in the first game this past year. And then Fink got 3 or 4 games under his belt this past season. So we got a lot of guys that have played, that have done things at a high level. So I expect them all to, the competition to make them all play better, to be honest with you. And the experience they have will obviously help them, and I think that it'll raise their level of play from the previous year. But again, they all 3 now have experience, so they're going to push each other, and I think it'll make them all 3 better football players.
How do you split reps this spring?
We haven't discussed it, but depending on how many guys we have out there, we'll just split them up and let them go at it. Again, we're going to have to be smart with reps, with a limited number of guys, with taking care of their bodies and taking care of their arms and taking care of everything. But again, as often as we can and as much as we can, we'll try to always divide reps evenly to get a fair evaluation out of guys and see who your best guy at the time is, and who the team can rally around, and who can rally the troops, and who can raise the level of play of those guys around him, because that's ultimately the quarterback's job, is to do that.
Have there been any guys like rallying the troops? Have there been guys that have stood out as far as maybe established themselves as leaders on the offensive side of the ball?
I think that's something that we've discussed and that we think we need to improve on. And again, I think last year at times, a lot of it was we were just kind of trying to keep our head above water and then learning the system, and so you're more focused on just doing your job than necessarily leading the troops. From just an overall standpoint, I think Elijah Barrett-Tucker at times, you can see him this is more from the off-season program that I'm talking about when we're talking about their strength training or their speed training. Austin Barrett-Tucker's speaking up more than he's ever done, and he's always been a pretty quiet guy, but when something needs to be said, at times he said it, and that's good to see. And he's a guy that obviously has a lot of talent, that is going to be a special football player, and was a really good football player last year as well. He probably had an opportunity, if he would have went into the draft, probably could have got drafted, and so he I think finally understands that he has credibility because of what he's done on the field, and now he's using his voice a little bit to try to hold his teammates accountable. And I think that's when, as a football team, you can really start to get good, is when the coaches, when the players take some ownership in it, take a little of the ownership off the coaches and take ownership themselves, the players do. That's when you really have something special. And you've seen a little bit of that. Like I said, Elijah Barrett-Tucker's done a really good job this offseason doing that, and that's been encouraging. And I do think that we have some others that have kind of been tweaked up and stuff that when they get healthy, we'll do that as well. And so once we get the full squad out there, we'll continue to work on that and continue to try to develop that. But again, this offseason, I think Elijah's done that, and I think that Jalen McKenzie at times has done a good job of it. And because of that, if your whole line can lead, you got a chance to be really good, because those guys, one, they're bigger than everyone, so they probably carry a little bit of fear from the other guys anyway. So if they're the ones holding you accountable, that's a good thing. And we've had a couple guys doing that, and that's been good for us.
As far as Keaton's arm, any issues with Keaton's arm?
You're going to have to talk to someone else, but I think he looks good. But
how about JT in terms of coming back?
You know, ACLs I think are usually a little longer than now. Hopefully, I'm hoping we're able to get him for something during spring, you know, to throw the football. But again, the actual timetables on that's over my head. And with Keaton, what he says is he feels pretty good. But again, that's going to be over my head. If it was up to me, I'd let them both go all the time. But they don't ask my opinion on that. So, you know, we got to take care of their health first, and we understand that. So, you know, with Keaton, I'm sure early on especially that we'll be very conscious about how many balls he's throwing and making sure that arm's right, because that's obviously a very important part of playing quarterback is to have a healthy throwing arm. So we'll do everything we can to make sure he's healthy. With JT, again, just the nature of an ACL injury, the rehab's usually longer than what it's been since he's had it. So, but the thing about JT and Keaton and really most of our guys is they love the game and they love to go compete, and so I'm sure they're going to want to do as much as they can, and so they'll push themselves to whatever's healthy or whatever's safe. And then, you know, what the training staff or Coach Helton deems unsafe or not ready, what they're not ready for, we'll obviously hold them out of it. But again, starting next week, I think obviously we'll have a much better idea of what they're going to let them do and what they're not going to let them do.
What have you observed about JT since his injury?
What's that?
What have you observed about the way JT's handled the past few months since injury?
He's handled it extremely well, you know what I mean? Obviously, I haven't got to do a ton with him because he hasn't been on the field or been able to do it a whole lot. But mentally and just the way he's approached it from a mentality standpoint, he's done a really good job. And so, you know, I think that JT, as soon as he gets back, he's going to be what he thinks ready to go, you know, because of the way he has approached it, because he's tried to improve himself mentally, and also, like I said, he hasn't been down about it at all, and so I think that's been important. And that'd be an easy situation to get really down about and kind of be a frustrating situation. And from what I've seen, there's been very little frustration from him. He's kind of taken it in stride and just said that, you know, there's nothing I can do about being injured. What can I do to be the best when I get back healthy, 100% healthy? And so I think that's really been his approach since the injury has happened, and because of that, he's going to give himself the best chance to be successful when he gets back. And so that's, to me, the only way you can, and the best way to handle it, the only way you really can handle it and give yourself the best chance to be successful is to say, hey, there's nothing I can do about it. Let's be the best I can be when I get back, and that's been his approach. So that's encouraging.
What are the options going to be at left tackle as you head into spring ball?
You know, I think that we just got to find a way to get whoever the best 5 guys are on the field. However, we got to shuffle them. You know what I mean? So if that means moving guys in, moving guys out, whatever we have to do, we got to identify the best 5 that we have, the 5 that give us the best chance to be successful early on, and those will be your starting 5 in whatever order we can put them out there. You know, and so that's going to be kind of our approach, is figure out who those 5 are, and then figure out the best way to line them up to give us a chance to win games and you know, be good in the run game, protect the quarterback, things like that. And so, you know, I do think that at that position, or at the O-line more than probably any other position, reps together really help, because you got to know each other. You got to learn to work with each other, and you know, the way that they work together, just passing off twists or double teams and stuff like that. It helps if you got reps with a certain person. And so. That's going to be a big part of the spring, is identifying who the best guys are, and then figuring out how we can get as many reps as we can with each guy in that position. You know, and obviously Vera Tucker was great for us at left guard next year, but you know, if he gives us the best chance to be successful with him on left tackle, you move him out there, whatever the case may be. You just got to find 5 guys and then figure out where each one of them fit the best. And so that'll be our approach this spring.
Is it realistic to think that somebody like Cortland Ford could come in, and even though he's not going to be here until the end of May, could get some playing time?
We're going to do everything we can to get those guys ready, but you know, I think at the offensive line position, that's probably the toughest spot in all of football to play as a true freshman or to play young, just because not only is there so much you have to learn from the mental side of the game. That's probably the biggest physical position, you know, as far as like physically being growing up. The O-line position is probably we got to do it the most physically, you know what I'm saying? And so that's a tough position mentally and physically to come into the true freshman and play. But we're going to do all we can, especially to speed up the mental side of it. This as soon as we get here, and we'll do everything we can. And a lot of that's going to be on those guys, because because of NCAA rules, but the more they can learn, the more they can study, the better chance they'll give themselves to get playing time next fall. And so heading into next fall camp or this coming fall camp, if one of those guys that comes in can develop and give themselves a chance mentally to play, I do think that we signed some guys that physically are big enough and strong enough that may give themselves an opportunity, you know. And so it'll be fun when we have those guys. Obviously, it'd be fun to have all those guys right now. But this spring again will be a great opportunity to grow some people and move them around and see where they play at each position and see which five can really develop. And then once we get the new crew in here, for a while we'll have to evaluate them and see if any of them can break into that, you know, the depth chart and get some playing time. But I don't think, because of the guys we signed, I think we signed some really good players and some guys that are more physically ready than a lot of guys probably are coming out of high school. So because of that, I don't think it's too far of a stretch to believe that one of them could get some action, get some playing time this coming fall. And so we're excited about those guys and look forward to getting them here so that we can figure out just where they are, you know.
What does this team have to do to be able to run the football? What do you have to do?
Stay healthy.
Huh?
Stay healthy.
How many backs do you have right now healthy?
What's that?
How many running backs do you have healthy right now?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'll be interested to see who trots out there because I don't know what the. Again, we haven't really discussed who all is going to be completely cleared for spring. Is Coach Elton talking today? No. That'd be a good question for him. I don't know who he's going to let go because those are over my head. Again, I do think that we have tough guys and guys that want to be out there, but at the same time we got to be smart about where they are. And so if they're healthy, they'll be out there. If they're not, we're going, you know, again, especially in the spring, we'll do everything we can to get them reps and get them, improve them, but also be smart about the ultimate goal is to get them back for next fall. But so I don't know how many we have that are cleared to play come the first of spring, and even if they're not cleared, you know, early on, hopefully as spring goes, we can get more and more out there.
Going back to JT, what has been your message to him about what to expect when he is here, than he is healthy, in terms of what's there for him?
Just like I said, it's always a competition, especially at that position, because only one plays. And so, you know, since the day he's been injured, it's always kind of been the same. Just come back ready to compete and be the best as you can be. You know, and that's, again, competition I think makes everyone better. And I think they tell you that themselves. And so, you know, get healthy, do everything you got to do. In the meantime, while you can't physically do things, do everything you can mentally to give yourself the best chance to be great when you get back. And so, again, like I said earlier, that's kind of been his approach, which has been really good to see, and it will give him the best chance. Hopefully he's able to do some things this spring just to get him some physical things. If he can't, he'll continue developmentally, you know what I mean? And then as soon as he gets healthy, again, come compete and just be the same guy every day. And that's, at that position, a very important thing. And he does a good job of doing that, though. So excited to get him back, and excited again. He was last fall. He did some really good things, and before he got hurt, he was doing some good things in that game. You know, and so it'll be great to have a full stable back whenever we can get him back. But again, we got to get him healthy and get him there as soon as we can.
Good.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, another familiar face for you, although many of you might not talk much to him, but John David Baker is now our full-time tight ends coach. So JD, if you can maybe just talk a little bit about that process and getting ready for spring ball, and we'll do some questions.
Right. Yeah, just I couldn't be more fired up to be part of the full-time staff now, getting the opportunity to work closely with our tight ends and just watching them through the off season. Just excited to watch them improve this spring.
This is your first full-time job. What was that call like when you got that news?
I was back home in Texas, and so Coach Elton called me up and just said he had an opportunity for me, man. And I was fired up. It's what you work for. Long hours. There's a lot of time where you kind of sit and wonder, like, is this really happening? Is it going to happen? And it finally does. So, I couldn't be more grateful to Coach Helton and Coach Harrell just for their belief in me, and excited to get going.
How are you trying to just develop your own rhythm as a position coach?
Really, it's just be yourself. You know, don't change. You got to this point by being you and being who you are as a person, and to me, that all starts and finishes with relationships. You know, developing relationships with our tight ends, with every player on our team, offense and defense. Just be the same guy. Don't change. That's what's gotten you to this point.
Obviously, tight end didn't play a huge role in terms of catching passes last year. Do you foresee that maybe growing, or do you feel like you guys have settled into what the tight end does in this offense?
No, I think if you followed the offense, especially like our last year at North Texas, you got to see our tight end there. He played probably 85% of the snaps, and he was heavily involved in our passing game as well. We tell our guys, not only our tight ends, our receivers, running backs, in one of our first meetings, we always tell them, like, if you want to play, you have to prove to us that you make the unit better. And so that goes for my guys as well. If they want to be more involved in the passing game, they got to show that they bring value to that. You know, I think we got to a point last year to where we felt like we were a better offense with 4 true receivers on the field, so that's what we did. You know, until one of our guys steps up and shows that he can play, you know, 80, 95% of the snaps, that's what we're going to do. And so my job is to work to get those guys to that point, because that's what we'd like to do. We'd like to stay in 11 personnel as much as possible, so we got to get to that point.
How much of that was related to health, though?
You know, a little bit. We got banged up as a team, but really, I think it was just like I said. You know, who makes us best as an offense, and at that point in time, really felt like having 4 wide, 10 personnel on the field was our best option.
Have you put on any film of Daniel Matter-Baby from a couple of years ago? What do you think when you look at some of the stuff he was able to do?
Right. To be honest with you, I haven't. He and I have had several meetings just talking to one another, just getting to know each other as a person, because, you know, I don't want to get out there on that first day of spring ball and start coaching him, and he has no idea who I am as a person. So he and I, we've obviously talked X's and O's, but watching him as a player, that really didn't matter to me. I wanted him to have a good feeling for me of who I was, and I wanted to know who he was. That way, whenever I'm out there and I'm coaching him, he's not getting coached by some stranger.
Daniel's he's a pretty impressive dude. Is there an element that he brings to the room that maybe was missing last year?
Yeah. To be honest with you, he's got a level of maturity that you don't normally find in a college-age student. But he is a mature dude, and I think he's going to bring a level of leadership to our guys, and that's kind of the unique thing about our room right now. We've got 3 seniors with Daniel and Josh and Eric. So we've got some leadership in there, but I think he's gonna add kind of a different element. To be honest with you.
You guys brought a lot of.
He's good. He's good. You know, yeah.
You guys, offensive coaches, brought a lot of energy last year to the football program. Sensing a lot of energy from these new defensive hires. Are you guys feeling that as well?
Absolutely. You should walk in that office every morning. They got music blaring. They're ready to go. So, you know, to me, the thing when you start making people better, you start getting really good competition. I think we're going to have really good competition in the spring. You know, you add what we brought to the table last year and then bring it this year. I'm excited to see kind of how our 2 units go at each other, but also grow as a team, more importantly.
How would you describe your relationship with Harrell?
You know, we're about as close as brothers as you can get without actually being brothers. We've known each other for a long time. The cool thing about us was our relationship was forged as a friendship before it was as colleagues. So we have a lot of trust in each other, and you know, we're pretty close.
We talked to him about this offseason and just the steady stream of offers that he had to deal with. How often was he consulting with you and with your advice? What was that like, seeing him go through that process?
We consult quite a bit about that kind of stuff. You know, like I said, we were friends before we were ever colleagues, and so he has a close-knit circle of people that he trusts. So when he goes through that stuff, he is he's very analytical in how he thinks about things. He tries to see things from every angle, and he was blessed with a lot of different offers. And when he sat down and looked at it, he thought this was the best one, and he didn't want to leave. His family's happy. We've got a great opportunity to be really, really good next year. And he believes in this place, and he knows how special this place is, and he wants to be here and make it as great as it can be.
Was it a little like, here we go again, each time that they start up again?
To be honest with you, I mean, it's been like the last 3 years, but I will say this. I always trust him because more than likely his decision affects me. I always trust his decision. He's going to make the right one because, one, he is a man of faith. He's not going to do anything flying by the seat of his pants. He's going to think about it, and he's going to pray about it. He's going to do the right thing, not only for himself but for his family. And if he's going to do that, I trust anything he's going to do.
He said he never really considered himself as an NFL coach until maybe this offseason. Do you agree he's kind of got that college coach personality, I guess, from your perspective?
Well, when you grow up in a family of coaches like he has, I mean, his granddad was a Texas high school football coach. His dad's a Texas high school football coach. To be honest with you, I mean, that's what he grew up thinking he was going to be. So the NFL is probably the last thing on his mind. And he is truly an educator. He enjoys growing people and growing kids. And so I think I don't know that for a fact, but I don't think you get to do that as much at the NFL level. And so I think college fits him best because that's what he loves to do.
Last year, the tight ends only caught 15 passes. As a position coach, is that something you can lobby for? Like, hey, our guys need to get more involved in the passing game?
Yes, a little bit, but also at the same time, it's like I said earlier, they got to prove that they're better, that they make the unit better. We're not going to go in there and say we need more catches because we need more catches. We need to earn that right in practice. They need to make sure that they can make us more dynamic offensively. Last year felt like Drake London gave us a little bit of that, and he made us a little more dynamic, so that's why he started playing more. So we got to get our guys to a point to where they're going to make us better, and then that's where the production will come from.
What do you need to see in terms of making the offense more dynamic? What ways can these tight ends do that?
The special things about our tight ends within the offense is they move around a lot formationally. They're in a lot of different spots, and when you get to that point, as far as preparing as a defense coordinator, trying to defend somebody, and you got a guy that never comes off the field, but they can do a lot of different things without switching out personnel, so that makes it very difficult for people. And so that's what we'd like to get to, and I think we're going to be able to.
Given the tight end usage in the passing game, what do you tell recruits when you're recruiting tight ends now about what they should expect or what they're coming into?
We tell them the same thing. I mean, we kind of refer back to our guy at North Texas. This is what we want it to look like. We've got to get it to that point to where that's what it does look like. To where a guy, he's not coming off the field. He's in the backfield. He's blocking. He's playing the in-line of scrimmage. He's split out wide in our trips and 2x2 stuff. So that's what we've got to get it to, and that's what we sell to guys. Like, if you want to come here and play 90% of the snaps, that's what we want, and that's what we want to be in offensively. We just need somebody to come do it, and we get our guys on campus to be able to do that, and I think they will.
Last season, it seemed like maybe some of the issues were discipline issues and whatnot, defensively and so on. But has there been anything that you guys have addressed this off season to ensure that this season is maybe a little bit more disciplined, penalty-wise?
Right. I think there's always a newfound sense for accountability. I think our strength staff and I think ours as a coaching staff has done that. But any great team, the difference between a good and a great team is it's when the coaching staff has to stop holding the team accountable and when they start doing themselves. And I think we're getting to a point to where we've developed some leaders on this team that I think are starting to hold kids accountable. And I think that's where we'll make the biggest jump, because we can preach it until we're blue in the face, but until our kids start doing it, that's when you're going to see the biggest difference.
Be able to share any names of guys that
I'll keep it in-house.
Okay.
Going back to your friendship with Graham, what was kind of the origin? What was the first time you guys really clicked?
So Graham and his younger brother Clark and I played together at Abilene Christian, and when Graham was still in the NFL, he used to spend his off seasons down in Abilene, Texas, and he and I just started hanging out. To be honest with you, we hang out in Abilene, Texas, and wasn't much to do, so we drive around town, and that's about it. That's about the extent of how it got started.
Did you have coaching aspirations then, even though that wasn't the nature of your relationship? Did you all talk about that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to coach. That's what I knew I wanted to do. Honestly, I wanted to coach high school football, and that was always my goal. And really, kind of how the coaching deal got started. Him and his brothers used to have a passing camp down in Texas, and I'd work it every summer with them. And so I think that's kind of how the whole coaching relationship eventually got kind of came to fruition.
But what was his pitch to you when he brought you here initially last year in Owensville?
Really, when the whole thing got started, he asked me what I thought about it and had me kind of look at it, and I was like, man, I don't know what happened the year before, but I know they're really talented, and I think they would fit what we do really well. And you've turned down a lot of situations. I think this might be the one you might want to really consider. And once he came here and got a feel for Coach Helton and for this place, I think it was a no-brainer for him.
What do you hear coming from the jump that this offense makes in its second season? Why, in your opinion, does that happen?
Really for two reasons. I think it's a continued buy-in from our players as far as understanding the simplicity of it. Most times for an offense when they come in from year one to year two, I think they get a whole new install of stuff that they didn't even do the year before. When our guys show back up for spring ball, it's about to be the same stuff we did last year. Like nothing's going to change. But to me, the biggest difference of why the jump is from year one to year two, it's the second year in the system for the quarterback. And when he gets really comfortable and he starts understanding kind of the freedoms within the offense, because it is so simple, that's where the biggest jump is. And if you look at it for us at North Texas, we got to play Mason Fine as a freshman. His biggest jump was from year one to year two. He kind of got to take his licks and his wounds, just like Keaton did a little bit last year, made a huge jump. And so that's, to me, that's the biggest thing, is that quarterback gets a whole nother year in the system, and he makes the biggest jump, and it elevates everybody around him.
What's the process for you to feel comfortable coaching tight ends? I feel like you have a mastery of what you needed to teach that position.
To be honest with you, working closely with Graham, you don't necessarily prepare yourself as a quarterback coach, you prepare as an offense coordinator. And just like kind of like the quarterback of the offense, you better know everybody's job. And so working closely with him, I've honestly prepared to be a coordinator, to be an offensive coordinator. And so I've known the job of everybody on the field. So to me, it's an easy transition.
What's probably the biggest difference for you becoming a full-time staff member? Did your mentality change or anything besides just the on-field coaching aspect of it?
No, to be honest with you. I mean, it's still the same thing. Doesn't matter if I'm a GA, QC, or a full-time position coach. Your job is to create relationships with these kids, whether it's recruits, whether it's our players on campus. You got to build relationships with these kids. They got to trust you, and then you got to coach the heck out of them and push them as hard as you possibly can. But you can't do that unless they know that you love them. And so my mentality hasn't changed. That's kind of been my whole deal. That's why I got into this. I love building relationships with people, and so nothing changes for me.
Any story behind the name John David, one of the most famous?
No, it's my granddad's, my great granddad's name.
Not John David Crow or
No.
Great High School?
No.
Okay.
How do you address people that, since you've been close to Graham, a lot of people wonder whether the air raid offense can actually win a national championship. How do you, what's your perspective on why that, you could win a national championship with the air raid?
Because it's been done before. The OU Sooners in 2001. Mike Leach was offensive coordinator there before there, and it can be done. And I think I think what our offense does and what it is, it's got the perfect balance of, yes, it has an air raid basis as far as our passing game goes, but we believe in running football. And I think that's kind of where the difference is, and kind of what that thought is, that it can't be done, but it can be.
How involved are you with evaluating, helping evaluate other positions other than tight end? Or do you guys work together as a staff?
Right, so we sit down a lot as a staff when we evaluate every position. We've gone through every spot on offense, and we've watched as a staff, graded guys, identify who our dudes are, and we go after them.
Good. Great.
Thanks, Sunday.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Coach. How you doing?
How are you?
Hello, everybody.
Good. Okay, so our last and not least, our new special teams coach, Sean Schneider. Little known fact, he's the second of his family to coach at USC, right? His dad.
Absolutely. Yep.
Maybe a couple of introductory comments, and then we'll take questions.
Full circle. Well, Sean Schneider, obviously, I want to tell you, it's delighted to be here. It's an unbelievable experience so far. The team, the coaches around here are just top notch all the way around. So as we get going and as I start learning names, faces, and kind of the dynamics of the team, right now it's just all new and kind of starting to get things set in. So with that being said, we'll open it up.
Your dad obviously coached with K in 1966?
It was, yeah, way back. It was 70.
Did he ever relay to you his experiences of coaching with the USC football coaching legend?
We talked a little bit about it, but since he was, at the time, he was a GA, and it was, and I was so young, we just had mild conversation about it, but nothing specifically. So.
As a former punter yourself, what is your philosophy as far as what you encourage your punters to do? You go for direction, you go for lane time, anything specific like that?
Yeah, really with the punters and kickers, everything's about control. So yeah, direction, hang times, where we're trying to get the ball to. Operation times are really important. Want to make sure we're doing a great job with our operation times and setting that in. So technique-wise, we'll do a lot of stuff technique-wise to enable them to be a little bit quicker with what they do, and obviously the directional of what they can do. I haven't been on the field with them punting yet and kicking, so I don't know exactly. I've seen film, but until I get out on the field and see what they do, it'll kind of wait and see. But yeah, that everything we'll try to do will be directional and controlling the ball, making sure we're doing things to get our cover units in the best situation to succeed.
Sean, you spent a lot of time at one school. What was it that finally made this opportunity right, as far as the fit and Coach Helton, all of that?
Well, I tell you, going through a couple interviews at a few other places, me being not on the field as a coach at Kansas State, that was in an analyst role. I wasn't ready to go that route, and so getting back on the field was really important to me. I got to say, when Coach Helton called, we'd had several conversations, but he is a very genuine, straightforward person, and it fits the mold that I'm used to. And so, to me, it couldn't have been a better fit. It was, gosh, we probably spent a month and a half in conversation, and so by the time we wound up getting to that point where he was ready to do something with special teams coordinator, it felt comfortable. It was a good move.
So he tried to recruit you the whole time. Took a month to recruit.
Well, it was off and on because he was in the process of hiring other coaches. But yeah, it was the whole process was a little lengthy. Even with the other schools that I interviewed with, it was just a long process.
What did you learn about Clay in your time since you arrived here?
That he is who he is. I mean, there's no false sides to him, and so everything that that we've talked about, that we've addressed, we've stayed on track with. He's got a very leadership is terrific. His approach with the team is terrific. His approach with the coaches is terrific. And so it didn't expect anything different, but he stayed true to who he is. That's the best thing I can say. He is who he is.
Coach Naivar said that you are the most detailed coach that he knows. What are some of the important details as a special teams coach to you?
Well, a lot of things. Try to keep the special teams
we use the word simple, try to keep it to where it's very understandable and fundamentally sound. So I'm big on fundamentals. So we're gonna, from the beginning to the end, we're gonna do fundamentals all the way through the season. So there's a lot of teams that'll start fundamentals at the beginning of the season, then move on and just do all teamwork as they go and scheming. My philosophy is to keep the fundamentals sound. And so if you're not working on those every day, just like you would at another position, if you're not working on those every day, you're going to tend to lose the fundamentals of what you're trying to do. And not to mention when players are going from their position, a team, and we have a special teams period, I mean, their minds are all over the place. And so want to keep things in a solid routine for them so that they know what they're doing, they know where they're going, they know how it's going to get done, they know what the expectation is, so they're not trying to process a whole bunch of stuff that surrounds them that doesn't involve what they need to do. So
new coaching staffs are kind of hesitant to talk about what happened before, but do you have any sense of, last year was a really difficult year, special teams wise here. Do you have any sense, do you look at the film and try to get a sense of where you have to go from there to where you want to be?
Well, yes. I mean, last year, and same, I can relate this to Kansas State as well too. In 2018, we went through some injuries that plagued us a little bit on special teams, and I'm talking at K-State. So then, when we had some new faces on units, we would wind up with some guys getting out of place, not being where they're supposed to be. And to be honest with you, I saw some similarities in that last year. I can't speak to the injuries, I can't speak to the anything else, but where there were, a kickoff return that got back on him, a guy was out of place. So there were just things like that. I don't know if it was personnel changes or what. And to be honest with you, I'm a look through the front windshield guy and not in the rearview mirror. But at the end of the day, I think it related to what we had in 2018. We just had some guys that didn't fit right, and, whether it was on a return or whether it was on a cover, and just bad things happen. And so sometimes you get in that situation, and it's tough to overcome it sometimes. But yeah, I mean, and for us, it's going to be details. It's getting down to the fundamentals of details and making sure that everybody can play as fast as they can.
What have been your early impressions of Ben Griffith that you've seen on film, and your early discussions with him?
The conversations have been great, and that's one of the things that I really encourage players to do, not just the specialists, but the rest of them, is to come up and spend time with me so we can get one-on-one and watch film. Ben has been tremendous. I think he's got a huge upside to him, a lot of potential. So growth-wise, I'm really excited about. He's got a tremendous leg, and I can't wait to get out and just see it live. So our dialogue has been great. He's itching to learn. He's itching to get better. The work ethic is unbelievable with all of them. I mean, they've all really bought into my philosophies and what I like. So yeah, so it's good. It's been real good.
Going back to the process, did you see there was an opening and reach out, or did your connection with Todd and Craig from the Big 12 kind of help initiate things? How did it kind of start?
No, I reached out to Clay just on a whim, just a text message that I was interested in, and then as time went, conversation started. So that was really how all that began. And I'm sure when Todd and Craig got here and when they had conversations about it, I'm sure that helped a little bit because of our tie in the Big 12.
How have you adjusted to the new kickoff rules and some of those changes? Are you a fair catch on kickoffs kind of guy, or are you?
Well, we scored 4 touchdowns last year, so no, I don't like the fair catch. The rule hadn't changed a lot. I mean, if we've got on kickoff return, if it's smarter to fair catch it, we'll fair catch it, and that all depends on how good we are. And then obviously philosophy too. That's one thing that we haven't got all the way into yet, is philosophy on that. So once we go through here and develop philosophies on what we want to do. And again, sometimes it's, hey, we just need the offense to get a fresh start. We don't want to get them pinned back deep, so let's just fair catch it, get them out there and go. It hasn't changed anything for me. I like to return it. I like to, I'm not going to bring it out from 9 deep, but I like to give our return guys an opportunity to get down the field and make a big play. One of the things that I've about special teams is when you can create big plays, you create emotion that just stirs everybody. Players on the field, the fans. So those big plays are huge, not just scoring points, but they're impactful.
How do you weigh that, the potential for a big play, but then a disastrous play? Where would you rather be kind of even kill and you get the ball at 25 a lot, or is it okay to have big risk, big reward if you're having bad things happen too?
It really depends on a whole lot of factors. If we're a really strong offense and defensive team, high risk, high reward is you can probably get away with. Smart football is smart football. So at the end of the day, you got to be smart about what you're doing. But it does weigh in. To me, a lot of stuff weighs in on our offensive philosophy, defensive philosophy, what Coach Elton, what his philosophy is. So there is some risk at times, but try to minimize that with fundamentals and smart play. So, and that's the thing that I believe Coach Naivar is probably referring to is we try not to making mistakes. We just try not to do penalties. We just coach that out of them, so we're not getting penalties or making mistakes.
It wasn't like for you just starting over fresh after so many years in Manhattan.
I'll tell you what, it has been, it has challenged me in every direction possible. And so I've been looking forward to this opportunity for a long time. When Dad came back for that second stint, I never thought he was going to coach as long as he did. So I was anticipating 4 or 5 years and then kind of making my break. It was when he was there, because I did so much with operations and then the coaching side of things. I was to me convicted to stay there and be a part of his time. I knew that I would have an opportunity if I did everything that I did there, an opportunity to come down the road for me, and I would take it when that time came. So I've been very fortunate and blessed to be in one place for as long as I have, and hopefully that happens here. I mean, I hope got an opportunity to stay here for a long time.
What's been the most challenging?
What was your commute like there compared to here?
Let me finish this one first.
What's been the most challenging thing for you about the change?
It's not the weather. Nowhere close to that. Just everything. I mean, it's just the getting to know all the players, getting my feet on the ground, changing everything over in my playbook. Just a lot of busy work. So that's about it. Now that we get spring ball started, the rest of it will be great. I mean, I'm just ready to get on the field and coach. So that's about it.
I'm just saying, how does your daily life, the commute, for example, is there even a commute in the Little Apple?
I had 10 to 15 minutes. I got really irritated if I came in when school was starting and it took me 20 minutes. So when the traffic on Kimball got a little busy. But no, and here, everybody was telling me, you're going to hate it out there, the traffic's this, it hadn't bothered me one bit. It's no different than driving around Kansas City. You just got to be smart about when you're going. So last night I was heading out to the place where I'm going to be living at. They had the whole highway shut down, 110 coming back this way from a 4 or 5 car pile up that happened, and so it made me realize I need to have 2 routes. Just make sure I have an alternate route when the highway gets blocked. So.
Do you have a comfortable couch in your office?
I'm going to probably have to get one. Yeah, I got one in there. It's just not long enough.
How do you coach the penalties out of players?
Well, a lot of it, because most of the penalties you wind up seeing is pushing the back. So it's about being smart, about understanding where your leverages are, understanding when and when not to pursue the block. And that's the thing that for example, if a guy loses a leverage on a block and the guy gets out in front of him, there's no sense in trying to run through him and catch him, go ahead and work to the next guy and let that guy go. And we've got some, we've got a couple things in place in the system where we can account for that. So whether it's a kickoff return or punt returns, we can account for some of that stuff. It's when a player loses a guy and is given great effort and is trying everything he can to catch up and get to that block, and then at the very end of it, when the returner starts to come and that guy puts on the brakes and then you run into the back of him and get a push in the back. So it's about being smart how to handle that situation. We'll coach that. We'll just coach them how you do it.
How do you deal with having 10 guys on the field for an extra point? Is there a certain method where they all line up, they're ready to go, so they're in the game? How do you avoid players?
Yeah, I don't allow 10 guys on the field, or 9 for that matter. No, we'll do a lot on the sideline as far as we'll have some help with collecting personnel, making sure we have everybody ready to go. So we do have a process in that to manage that. But yeah, that's just something that's not acceptable.
At what point in your career did you feel you had a command of being a special teams coordinator and kind of trusting that you had every facet under control and could teach it?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't ever feel that way. I feel like that if I'm not learning something on a regular basis, then I'm cheating myself and the players. So I try to find weaknesses in what I coach and what I teach as often as I can. And so I think if you get to the point where you feel like you got it all under control, you kind of reach a point of complacency, and that's where I don't want to be. And so do I feel like I have a good grasp of what I'm teaching? Yes. Did I feel like it? I started on the field in 2011, 2012, 2013, probably got better each year. But I try not to ever get to a point where I feel like, I've got it. All right, let's go, and we're coasting. So there's always a new wrinkle that you can find. I mean, everybody tries to do something different scheme. So there's always a new challenge.
Last year, there's been a lot of emphasis time-wise for how long special teams would be in practice. What is your philosophy on how much time do you need, and how is that going to be different in the spring compared to the fall?
Spring and fall should be the same. So during practice, we'll have a 5-minute period for field goal and field goal block, and then we'll have a 10-minute period. On alternating days, we'll do cover units on one day and then return units on the next. In season will be a little bit different as far as we'll do all 4 units on Monday, Thursday, and Tuesday, Wednesday will be cover units and return units. And then we'll go 10 minutes each unit on those days. And so, and then if we're behind or not getting some things done, then we'll probably add a little bit of time. That Coach Help's been wide open to anything. So, and that's customary what I've been doing over the last several years.
Time for one more?
What do you want to see in your punt return and kickoff return?
I'm sorry?
What do you want to see in your punt returner?
Touchdowns. Touchdowns. A whole bunch of them. No, those guys with the returners in kickoff return, I'll say this with you guys not knowing the scheme completely, but patience and obviously speed. With the punt return, agility, someone that's really quick, and speed, and good vision. I need guys with really good vision. So, and I think we got guys here that are capable of doing that. But those units are, those guys are only as good as the other 10. And so, as long as the other 10 are doing their job, I have no doubt that we'll be fine for what we do with the rest of the guys. So, but it's I have an all 11 philosophy. If they're not all 11 getting it done, then we're going to fail somewhere.
Thanks, Coach.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach.
You bet.